Fidel Castro loved Kwame Nkrumah. I'm told that when Kwame Nkrumah was in Guinea, Fidel ensured that he got a regular supply of molasses and from Cuba. And actually, that when he died, Fidel was one of the people who came to carry his casket. I mean, that is something for Nkrumahs, and in fact, for all Ghanaians, that's incredible. Well, that's incredible. That love.
The relationship didn't start there. In 1959, when the revolution triumphed, and the United States Eisenhower started playing games with the Cuban economy, thinking about embargoes and whatever, Ghana sent Cuba huge quantities of rice. It's a historical record. We
sent food aid.
Food aid, right. And we were one of the first countries to recognize the country, recognize Cuba, you know. And Nkrumah made sure that whatever Cuba needed, he was there to support. He was there to support it. And that's how the bond of friendship started and got strengthened all the way to between 1966 and 1972, when Fidel also reciprocated by making sure that Kwame Nkrumah got the required quantities of molasses that he needed for his health. Mm-hmm. You know, and we must be very grateful for that. And that relationship has continued to today. I do remember that when Hurricane Mitch hit Cuba and devastated the island, we lent Cuba about $17 million.
Wow, what year was this?
This was about
early 60s?
90, no.
No, recently,
96.
In the 90s.
96, yeah.
Okay.
Hurricane Mitch devastated the entire Caribbean, and we provided financial assistance to Cuba. And in exchange, they were supposed to come and build some roads and others for us. So the relationship has been there, has been strong. Not only have they provided medical doctors, at times we forget that they provided sports individuals, they provided engineers. Yeah. A lot of individuals who are in government these days were training Cuba. Hannah Bizu and others were all trained in Cuba. They have also assisted us with military. We have an excellent military relationship, excellent intelligence relationship. Our BNI folks and a lot of military intelligence people were trained in Cuba. But let's emphasize that all the training, the school that Fidel founded on the Isle of Youth, the Kwame Nkrumah School, that took kids from here, from primary school all the way to medical school, was at no cost to us. We did not pay 1 penny for any of these programs. There is not a Ghanaian who went to medical school. You know, most of these guys, the neurologists we have, the few neurologists we have, were all trained in Cuba at no expense to us. And at the end of their studies, the Cuban government even gave everybody a suitcase full of whatever clothes they needed. You know, and this is a country that was under embargo. And at times when we talk about this embargo, we think it's a small thing. The embargo says that no U.S. company could do business in Cuba. It was strengthened by the Helms-Burton Act in 1996 that extended this embargo to any country whose subsidiary also did business in Cuba.
Abeiku, what do you think?
Yes, I've enjoyed the conversation, and it has inspired me more because I've been a fan of Fidel Castro. I remember in 1987, when I was about to write my common entrance, I got the opportunity to study in Cuba. I was then a member of the Ghana Edikanfo movement, which was a youth progressive group His Excellency, then President Flight Lieutenant Rawlings, had brought in the system. So going through the rudiments of Red Cross and the Boy Scouts, you know, were trained and groomed, you know, to dedicate our life for our nation and even our society. So I was ready to go to Cuba, but my dad had a different, you know, view to Ghanaians who were going to Cuba to be trained, because like you rightly said, the Western media had, you know, brainwashed us of who Fidel Castro was. So some were scared that we were going to be trained to come as, you know,
you come and kill him.
Yes,
mercenaries or military commandos.
So yes, that was the.
I love it.
But then,
But it's good to be a commando.
Yes, apart from that, I was inspired at that time with other freedom fighters like Idi Amin. Idi Amin, the history, or perception Africans even have about Idi Amin. If you look at the movie that they stage where there's life are all lies, you understand? When he fought against the British and all that. So I was born and nurtured to be an Africanist. So I stand for anybody who fights for Africa.
All right, A+.
When David was speaking, he said that the youth must learn something out of what Fidel achieved. And I think that is very important. We should always look out for a certain kind of leadership, for leaders who will stand up and fight against bas fair. That was one of the first things that Castro did, fought against increment in bas fair. He formed some form of partnership with poor people.
He wanted people to get on the trotro more cheaply.
Yes, he had. I think he had this kind of partnership with poor. I don't know how they identified poor people. Yes, but they formed. If it was in Ghana, we say Ghana Association of Poor People, literally. And if you're looking for a leader, you're looking for leaders who don't start revolutions because of hate, because of personal gain, but they are starting all of this because they have love for the people, because they have that passion, because they have compassion, because they want to lift the country from one place to the other. And everybody who is a young person today, at least you know that the CNN and the BBC and the Sky News will tell you one thing about Fidel Castro. They will tell you the same thing about Donald Trump. But the world has changed. And so people are not listening to what they tell you about Castro. In fact, so much lies were told about Castro. Same lies were told about Gaddafi. There's so many people who have a certain perception about Castro. There's so many people who have a certain perception about Gaddafi. They don't know that even when he was sanctioned, he was able to build the man-made river on the desert that is supplying so much water to Tripoli and Benghazi and all of it. And so we, the young people who are coming up, in a time when Castro did not have all that we have today, he was able to start the revolution and make sure that he wanted Cuba to be an independent country and so and so. Kwame Nkrumah did the same.
Excellent. And I think that's a really important point, you know, that we read more, you know, about our history, you know, not just about Fidel Castro, but also about our own heroes.
I mean, dictators are not normally loved by their people. Right. Yeah, I mean, if you go to Cuba and see the love that they show for Castro, I mean, straight away you let those who call him a dictator choose to, and then then they try and pretend that those who love him are forced to love him. I mean, it's extraordinary. Whatever he says, it can't be loved. I mean, it's a joke. The people of Cuba know what Castro has done for them, and they respect it. I'm not saying everybody likes him. You want everybody to like you, then you're in trouble.
But even in a democracy, not everybody loves the elected president.
But ultimately, I mean, this is a leader who dedicated himself to his people, his society. Strong values, strong convictions. Some I don't agree with. It's not everything he does that you agree with. But you admire. I admire people that, even if I disagree with them, I admire people who seem to believe what they are doing. What I cannot stand are people who today they are like this, tomorrow they are like that. That sort of. Castro represents a guy of deep, strong conviction. So he has moral authority. Because it's not like he's saying just a loose cannon running around the place.
And actually, I was listening last weekend to a BBC conversation about the life of Castro. And there was a gentleman who met him. He was a British diplomat, but who met him many, many times, dozens of times. And he says he had long conversations with him. And one of the things that he liked about him was that he was a man of very strong conviction. However, he was also listening. He was a brilliant. He was a good listener. He would listen to your argument, and he loved debate.
When I first met El Comandante Fidel, that's what we called him, the commander Fidel, El Comandante en Jefe, it was at a friend's house. I've never forgotten it. I've never forgotten it because, I mean, she actually said to me, if you don't come before 5 o'clock, they won't let you in. I thought, what is she talking about? And I didn't take it seriously. When I got there, then I realized I was late. Because
did you know you would meet Fidel?
I didn't know I'd meet him. I got to the girl's house and the place had been sealed off. Her dad was living, I think, in exile. He was a Guatemalan politician. And Castro had come to that house. So I got there and it was completely sealed off. So, but somehow, I found my way, and I got into the place. I got upstairs. I walked up the stairs, man, I tell you, bang! In the middle of the hall was this man with a big beard, huge guy, very impressive personal presence. And when you go near him, you begin to get goose pimples.
You describe sorry, go on.
I am tempted to believe that the reason why, or one of the biggest bane we have in this country, as far as leadership inspiration is concerned, is the fact that we have not documented, we don't have, the books, and our educational system is also, is another thing to write home about. Growing up, we knew of the Bureau of Ghana Languages and the kind of books that they were writing, more moral, real life cases that you can relate to life. So growing up, you grow up with those virtues. But what do we see today? Even here we are celebrating the achievement of Fidel Castro. What about Nkrumah? There has been debate over Nkrumah, whether Nkrumah was really, the one who fought for the independence of this country, who should take the credit. There were some people before Nkrumah, and Nkrumah was even a dictator and all that. So even in our own environment, the historical facts have been distorted, and we are confused. So we can't even celebrate Nkrumah the way Correct. Other countries are celebrating. So everything boils down to the educational system that we have. Today we have history, tomorrow we have culture studies, the next time is religious.
I'm told right now that in the curriculum, we don't really have history as a subject.
So where do the youth
as in Ghanaian history?
They can't just go on the internet. A 22 or 30-year-old chap who doesn't know anything about Fidel Castro or Haile Selassie will go on the internet and say, I'm going to read about it.
So what you're saying is that it should be taken care of by the educational
root
within the curriculum.
The education.
Right.
The root is the education.
Yeah. And it's okay for people to disagree over what Nkrumah believed, whether they liked or disliked Nkrumah. I think that's okay. I think the important thing is that the basic facts ought to be known.
The facts are facts.
Just the fact.
You can't have no set of facts.
Absolutely. And then your opinion or interpretations or your perspectives may be different. And then it's perfectly okay in a democracy to sit around with drinks on a Friday evening and have an all-night debate, which is great because in the end everybody learns.
Mr. Moderator,
Kwaku is fine.
Tend to have difficulty with the use of the word democracy and the use of the word dictator. What do they mean? Fidel and those who believe in other forms of democracy will tell you that what we have is electoral democracy. You have 30 minutes or 30 seconds of exercising your democratic rights when you get to the ballot box. After that, you have nothing. The next time you're going to be hearing discussions of these things is when elections are approaching. The socialists will tell you that they are more democratic because they give equal rights to everybody. There is egalitarian distribution of goods and services in society. Is that what we have? We also argue that to have a perfect democracy like we're talking about, there have to be certain ingredients. You can't have a population of largely illiterates practicing democracy because nobody understands what it is. You can't have a population of poor people practicing democracy because what is there to struggle for?
Good point.
You can't have a population of sick people practicing democracy. So we argue that before any country professes to be democratic, there have to be certain ingredients, there have to be certain foundations. And we should ask ourselves, have we met these kinds of conditions? And this is why I'm saying that if you take the Cuban experience, the fact that Cuba has been able to create a population that is largely literate, create a population that is largely very healthy, a population that has one of the highest life expectancy in the world. Once the doors are open for them to embark on what you consider to be democratic, there will be no equal in the world.
You're watching The Lounge. We're taking a quick break. We'll be back in just a minute.